The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of our partners, hosts, or affiliates. Our goal is to support short track racing and the dedicated men and women who make it possible while providing entertainment for our listeners. Now, sit back, enjoy the show, and let's hear the stories.
They said, one day you're going to wake up and realize that you spent your whole life with this racing deal.
So we were Sunday taking the car down, getting the trailer to get to North Carolina. So they flip it Monday, leave Monday evening, get back home. Whoever drove it up there ended up sleeping that night, and somebody went to start putting shit back on it. Because we were leaving again Thursday night or Friday to go somewhere again.
And you haven't experienced anything else.
My job with the truck was to get Waffle House money. That was all I was expected to do, and I think we had it figured out if I finished sixth, which most time it wasn't but like 8 trucks.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good chance of getting sixth place to get enough money by Waffle House money and went home.
And you've missed out on a lot of other things.
So we was over there sitting on the side of the trailer, and we was just eating shit, peanuts and throwing them behind us. His truck was on the trailer behind us, and they just kept going inside it.
Oh, shit.
And I'm not saying we did it on purpose, but it was, we weren't aiming for the window, but if it went through it.
Yeah.
And my comment back was, yeah, but I did exactly what I wanted to do.
I want to know the stories. I want to hear the stories. Hey guys, welcome back to the Short Track Shakedown, brought to you today by Blackwater Bookkeeping and 5-Star Medicare. I am Josh Goodwin, alongside my good buddy Jake Moore. Jake, how are you today, buddy?
It's a great day.
It is a good day. It's Sunday. We have a great interview coming up for everybody. It's going to be Sammy McMullen. Sammy was a staple in the modified division back at Five Flags back in the early 90s and into the 2000s. Actually won the Snowball Derby in the Super Stock division in 94 and 95. We're going to talk to him about that. And moved over into the Pro Late Model division and was he was a force to reckon with in the Pro Late Model division. And then throughout the years of his progression, helped Johanna Long come along, and he's just a great guy, great friend. Can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah, I was very impressed with what he was doing with Arrow back in his early career before I think a lot of other people in that class were actually focusing on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think he was probably way ahead of his time.
Yeah, so I'm ready. I can't wait to hear about all that too. So
absolutely. Well, man, let's get him in the room, Jake.
Let's do it.
Retirement. Have you ever thought about what that word means or how it may change your life? Have you ever thought about getting on Medicare or how to even talk about getting on Medicare? You need to call Kenny Thorpe at 5-Star Medicare. They make Medicare easy. They can answer all of your questions, including about supplements to Medicare. They deal with Aetna, Cigna, Devoted Health Plans, Humana, and United Healthcare. Give Kenny a call today at 850-525-2424. Again, that's 850-525-2424. Well, Mr. Sammy, thank you so much for being here today and making the long trip to Molina, Florida. Where did you come from today?
Pensacola, down across from Five Flags.
Okay, so have you lived here your whole life?
Pretty much. We moved here. My dad was military, so I think we nested here in 71.
I got you. What branch of the service was he in?
Navy.
Navy?
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Do you obviously you went to school around here then?
Mm-hmm. Tater Tot.
You are Tater Tot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes another one, Jake.
Yeah.
I swear to you, we've had more people from Tate than we've had any other school.
We got a collection of them.
Yeah,
Something about
do.
Tate produces racers or something.
Yeah, Tate High School. I hear you. Well, that is awesome. I do, like I said, I do thank you for being here with us today, and you have a pretty extensive history with racing, especially in this local area. You've been one of the most requested people to be on the podcast. So I really look forward to digging into this. I kind of want to just jump right into the interview part of it. How did you get started in motorsports? What was the driving force there?
Well, we owned a garage for my whole life. And my dad, you have these father-son conversations at points in life. And, asked him, is there anything he hadn't done in his life that he really wanted to do, and part of the conversation was, run a race car. So,
Really?
Me being dumb as I am, I guess I found one. Pat Lasser had one growing in the weeds out here in Alabama. So I took our flatbed and come out, picked it up, drug it back to the shop, and, come dragging it in. He's like, "What is that?" I said, "That's our new race car, Dad." He's like, "Really?" So, and it kind of went from there, and that's pretty much the essence. We never real big, we went to the races, we watched, stuff like that, but we didn't go in the pits. We didn't know a lot of people in the pits or racing at the time, but we just, it's something, okay, well, let's go try it, and we did.
What shop did y'all own?
Sam's Auto Center.
Right there on Airport?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we started out a little 2-bay shop that my mom and my stepdad actually owned some gas stations. So when my dad retired military, he come back to Pensacola and rented the bays out, and we kind of were there for 3 or 4, outgrew that place and moved to another one, and finally bought some property, built our own shop.
Wow.
And it kind of been there ever since. And then now it's been better part of 20 years we sold it. I stayed there 5 years after we sold it, and then Donald called, and I went to Panhandle.
Yeah, so Sam's is actually still open. It's
yes,
still
it is.
there.
Yeah. Yes.
I got you. Okay. I didn't know that. I knew you had worked at Sam's for a long time, but I didn't realize that y'all had owned that. That's cool.
And that was home for a long time. We put a lot of heart and soul into that place.
Yeah.
And it worked out good. Everything happened like it's supposed to happen at the end of it. So.
Right. Well, that's good. So that car that you drug up, what kind of car was it?
It's an old Chevelle chassis, early model stuff, probably 74, frame, had a cage in already. And so it kind of, we cleaned it up, replaced bearings, went through stuff, and then put a body on it, hung an old Monte Carlo, 85, 86 Monte Carlo body, and, stripped everything out, went racing.
Was that an asphalt car?
Yes.
Asphalt.
And, I took a lot of time getting it ready, painted it up real nice, slick, pretty, go out, practice it. First thing to do, spin out, run in the guardrail, wad it up.
Damn. Every time.
Yeah.
First practice, so go back and beat the 10 side of it, go back, practice some more. So, but it was a hell of a car once we got
Once we got it going. So what class was that back then?
That was called Super Stock.
Okay.
And it was I kind of looked at different classes. The I guess they called them Pure Stock was the class below us, and hell, there was 28, 29 cars.
Oh yeah.
And
those classes were big back then.
Super Stock, there was 12, 13.
I got you.
So hell, my chance of winning already twice as good. So I'm gonna go this one. And then you start looking at rules, and the Super Stock was kind of, to me, the first true race car.
Right.
Because the Super Stocks, you had to use fan pulleys to adjust cross weight,
Right.
Where the Super Stocks had jack bolts and racing shocks, and you put racing springs in them, and, so there was a lot more race car to it, a little more motor, stuff of that nature. So, we went down that road, and I figured if I was going to learn, I was going to learn on a race car.
Now that was what, in the early 90s?
Yeah, it was 93. I think I bought the car. I think we started the 94 season with that car. I think my first race, I got lapped 3 times. And I was just curious, what the heck am I doing out here? Practice is going good, and then here come the field and just make me sound like I was standing still. And holy cow, what am I doing?
When I drove Five Flags coming from dirt, I was out there thinking I was doing pretty good, running pretty fast, and the leaders went by me, and I realized that I wasn't near enough on the edge than I needed to be.
Right.
And then, you just get better and better and better, practice more, and then you get, holding up with the back of the pack, and you start passing a few people, and, before the end of the year was up, we actually won a couple races. And,
no doubt.
And
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, in your first season, that's real good. So how long did you stay in the Superstock class?
It had to be 4 years, maybe even 5. So
you had a pretty good points battle going, and you won a couple snowballs, didn't you?
Yeah, we actually won the first snowball in 94. My first snowball. And from memory, it wasn't, it was a great thing, but I don't recall any big drama or nothing like that. I think we took the lead halfway and then just kept on going, and everything worked out great, And then we had some good rivalries with Tommy Rollins. And the running thing was if he got out front, I couldn't pass him, and if I got out front, he couldn't pass me.
Right.
You know, we beat on each other, and I mean, we run bumpers, but you know, we had enough respect. We really never. I don't think in the 2 years that we raced that we ever really crashed each other to the point we caused damage to each other's car. But but if he could hit me, he'd hit me square. If I could hit him, I'd hit him. You know,
right.
Good racing.
And it was good, hard racing. That was exactly what it was. And people loved it. You know, there was all sorts of, you know, hell, even my mom was up in the stands, and if you didn't have a Sammy shirt on, you couldn't sit in that area. She'd run you off. It was crazy.
No doubt. That's funny.
And if you showed up a Tommy shirt, everybody run you off. You had to go sit on the other side of Tommy's section. I mean, it was. Man,
y'all segregated the whole stand.
Oh, it was crazy times, but you know, it made for some good shows and a lot of people showing up just to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
And I think that's a lot missing these days is the good rivalry.
Well, like we were talking about with Micah, you know, y'all put on a show. Y'all were showmen, you know what I mean, and just that good hard rivalry and racing. I think if we could find those rivalries today, I think that would rejuvenate some classes.
Yeah.
So.
And it's to have enough respect for each driver that it ain't just putting a bumper and crashing them. I mean,
right.
You know, that ain't racing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
You know, and I sit there and watch these guys on TV, and in my mind, you know, we raced hard, and I knew how hard I could lean on some people, and some people would run out of talent too. Don't get me wrong,
right?
But even then, if they did, it was my fault. I pushed them too hard,
right?
You know, because you can lean on, and you know how hard you're pushing somebody. I mean, y'all race, and you get to a point that you know, I could put the bumper to you running down the front straightaway and then lift, and I knew when to lift so you wouldn't crash in the corner, but it was faster than you wanted to go in there,
Absolutely.
so you were getting out of the way going in the corner, and I could go on by and never feel like I was going to crash you.
Well, and that's the art of pushing somebody faster than they want to go, because they'll wash up, you drive underneath them, you drive off and go away. You know, run out, drive away out of their life, and I mean, they can't even be mad about that. You know, if you drive away from them, hey, they're faster, let's go. You know,
and early on, you know, I had a rule. I give them 3 laps, and back then, you know, 5 flags such a hard place to get around the second groove.
Oh yeah.
So. You know, but if you went up there, at least they could do is give you that lane.
Right.
So, you know, you get running and they wash up in center and move you up another lane. Okay, well, that's 1 lap.
Right.
Next lap, let me try chopping and go underneath you. And if they, you know, they think they're blocking high and come back low and chop you again, okay, that's 2. Third lap, you got pushed off in there. Right. And then we didn't have time to play with you no more. Right. You know, so there's a 3-lap rule. So you did everything as clean as you could, but you had to go. You didn't have, you know, 100 laps to do something, and you had 20 back then. So,
oh yeah.
You know.
I mean, that old super stock class though, which would eventually turn into what the Outlaws are today. But that class grew, and it was pretty big there for a long time.
Yeah, it had a lot of good following, people come along, and you know, had some good cars. I think Tommy Aaron come in with Brell helping him, and we had Greg Young, and we had Kenny Williams. We had, I mean, there's more and more and more, but you know, those are the ones I can think off the top of my head. But you know, there was 20 good cars every week.
Yeah.
Do you own a small business? Do you know how much profit you made last month? Do you know what your biggest expense was last month? Do you even know that you need to know these things? Well, you need to call Blackwater Bookkeeping if you didn't answer yes to any of those questions. Steph at Blackwater Bookkeeping can help you figure out where your money's going and where it's coming from, and help you strategize your business in the best way based on the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
She can also get you ready for next year's tax season and be ahead of the game instead of behind the 8 ball. Give her a call today at 850-290-3043.
And remember, whether it's startups or cleanups, Steph can get it done. Now, did those cars back then have the stock front clip?
Yeah, it was just full stock frame.
Mm-hmm.
You had to run a stock frame. I think the motor, you had to run all stock suspension components, stock rear ends, stock mounting, as far as stock A-frame, stock spindles.
Okay.
But you did get an aftermarket racing shock. You can put springs in it, you had jack bolts, 500 lift cam, you run a 4-speed.
2-barrel?
2-barrel.
Yeah.
They have the late model appearing bodies back then?
No, they were still all, they had to be all steel.
Okay.
So a lot of Monte Carlos, a lot of Chevelles and stuff.
So when they started doing that was the later years when the Superstock.
That's what I remember when you say Superstock. That's what I think.
I think they went to a sportsman car. I think they called it back then, and they had it, and it was like almost the outlaw cars.
Yeah,
with a a fiberglass type body, and I think they called them a sportsman class. I think West Paul had one in that same time frame they were doing that sportsman. And, but he always had really nice looking stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
He's West Paul. Talking about West Paul, he's helped a lot of racers over the years, but he's a historian. I mean, he can. I love talking with Wes because he can just sit down and he can tell you all just about everybody. You know, I mean, his memory is just so good of the olden days, and we're actually going to have Wes on the show just to do that. You know what I mean? Just sit down and talk about not only his racing personally, but about just history around here.
It'd be nice to know just how many cars had West Paul on the windshield at the top of it.
All of them. I used to work at the dealerships and I was a used car tech, and if we had one come in with a cracked windshield, I knew Wes was coming. I'd get excited because I knew I got to sit there and talk to him while he was changing out.
Yeah, you had some stories coming.
Yeah. That's exactly right. But yeah, we do look forward to that in the future. He listens every week, so I know he'll hear this. So but we do look forward to having Mr. West on.
And he did such a great thing, because the people that run Superstock, we didn't have tons of money, so he'd usually donate the windshields probably 9 out of 10 times if I had to guess, and then you got the stories with it. So he did a great service to a lot of poor racers out there.
He got me out of a bind. I had a gooseneck enclosed trailer one time, and I turned too sharp on my diesel and knocked the back window out of it. And I was racing on a budget, and I didn't have money to buy that. I called Wes, and he said, "Yeah, I got a glass in my shed here that'll fit your truck. It ain't perfect, but I can make it fit." And he got me new glass in there for almost nothing, just to help me out.
Yeah.
And that was cool with a lot of people that were involved with people back then is, it wasn't just one individual. There's a bunch of people like that just love racing, and they do a lot of stuff for different people. Just
absolutely. To networking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just be involved with it. And that's what that sport needed. It still needs today. Yeah. Really.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, after winning the Derby 94, 95 in the Superstock class, where did you go from there? Did you go straight into the modified after that?
Well, actually, I got when we run Superstock, we met Earl and Clara Freeman, and we actually owned the gas stations at that point too. So we were actually sponsoring Earl with some gas and stuff like that for their car, and they had the 51 Mickey Mouse on the side.
Yeah. Is that where the 51 came from?
Yes.
Okay.
That was Earl's number.
All right. So when you were running Superstock,
I was a 21.
A 21. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all right. We'll get into the 21 in a little bit, but okay. All right. So I've always wondered where the 51 came from.
Yeah. Well, that was all Earl, and it was we made a joke out of it. The 1 was mine, the 5 was his. And that's kind of but he was good people from day one, and kind of got together, and he actually had bought them modified from I think Robert and Ellum, and it was the biggest third box there ever was made. And I couldn't do nothing with it. I run it 2 or 3 or 4 times and finally killed it. And at the time, I was building a modified of my own. Because this is a little later, through. I was helping Ricky with his, and Ricky Brooks had to modify it, and we were going to Mobile and doing a lot of different things. But I'd been building this one from scratch, and it had been probably a year and a half in the process. And I actually bought it from, I believe it was Ricky, and he bought it from somebody else. But what I got was just a totaled race car. I mean, I just bought a chassis, and then I started from scratch and bought a rear end, went through it, put it in it, bought suspension, put it in it, just one piece at a time type thing. And it was sitting there as a roller car. And then I killed that thing of Earl's, and he's like, "Well, me and Claire have been talking. We really enjoy what we're doing. How do we continue this?"
Yeah, right.
Well, buy me out of that thing, and then we'll just keep on going.
Okay.
And then so he bought me out, and he said, "You just build it how you want to build it, colors you want to build it. I'll show up with motor and training, and we'll go from there." And that's kind of how that started. And it was a badass car.
Yeah,
it really was. So
y'all had a long run together too. I mean, that's just the 51 Sammy McMullen. I mean, it was famous,
And we did. I mean, but we all got along great. I mean, there was no, we didn't ever argue. If he said, park the bitch, we parked it. I mean, but ultimately, I knew how it was. He owned the car, and I was the driver, and I just kept it up, maintained it. We raced hard. We had a lot of success, and went on down the road and enjoyed every minute of it. I mean, it was just a real good group of people that we always had together with us, and and everybody got along great, and we just had a great time.
So the modified class back then, if I'm not mistaken, they called them the Gulf Coast Modifieds?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they were IMCA sanctioned. And y'all, did you travel with them, or did you only run Mobile and Pensacola, or did you go to Opp and Montgomery and stuff like that?
We didn't travel a lot, and they started out as IMCAs. Mm-hmm. And then about the time I got in, it kind of IMCA went away.
Oh, okay.
Because they had all that buyout rule for motors, and then my first year, I think that was gone.
Okay.
Because they started showing up with some Godzilla, NASCAR shit in some of these cars.
Oh, wow.
We had a little, I say little, but it was, the whole packages worked great on my car. Wasn't made it so good, but
right.
We got people showing up with 9-to-1s turning 9,500 RPM and leaving black marks off every corner, and people didn't realize that the tires was the key.
Oh yeah. That's always been the equaling factor.
Yeah. And they get out there and you just let them go. They burn their car down in 10 laps and you just drive by them. Hell, you damn near lap them at 20, and they just didn't have anything left. That was the beginning was that. And once you had a good little package, then we could keep our package every week. Mm-hmm. And that's what made that car so good.
Just make it consistent.
Mm-hmm. But everybody said we did some crazy stuff. Well, we really didn't. It was just, we get the car what it needed. And like I said, there wasn't a ton of money in that car at all. Like I said, I built it piece by piece by piece. I think the rear end come out of a car that got wrecked at Five Flags and burnt down. As a late model car, needed tubes, so I bought a tube, put it in it. I think the centerpiece was a Gleason type open differential. Mm-hmm. I think I got it from a guy in Montgomery. $100 here, $100 there. We go to the junkyard, get new A-frames, clean them up, paint them.
Man, it really. So I've built several cars like that. You start out with a piece, and as you are racing, you upgrade it here, you upgrade it there. You know what I mean? And it just, by the time you get done in 2 or 3 years, you've got a fine hot rod. And that's the way to do it without going broke.
Well, and the bad part was, so I get this crash car from Ricky because he didn't want to spend the money on it. So Jimmy Goodwin at the time was building these modifieds.
Yeah, the performance chassis.
Chassis. So, I took it over to him. I said, Jimmy, I need this fixed up. What can we do? And he hemmed and hawed. And he didn't have time. So it sat there a little bit. So finally he calls me up, hey, and I think it's like $1,500. He said, all right, $1,500. I got to have you bring me a clip and $1,500, I'll fix you up, which was a good deal.
Yeah.
So I get over there with the clip and I said, where's my car? Well, time I got through cutting off all the bent stuff, the Halo bar and the 3 door bars was all I got left.
Oh shit.
I thought, holy cow. How much is this going to cost now? $1,500. That's what I told you. That's what it's going to be. So,
oh wow.
So I basically got a brand new chassis from Jimmy for $1,500 in the front clip that I cut down and cleaned up for him. So and that car was, like I said, it was a bad little girl for a long time.
Yeah, we ended up with that car.
Did you?
Yeah, Scooter ended up with it from somehow. It was that blue chassis. The blue and black car that I still know where that car's at today. A kid out of Mobile's got it, but that was a badass little hot rod. Well,
I had him build it, because I'm heavier, and everything I ever drove was always heavy. Period. Yeah. So, I'm getting with Jimmy, and okay, I want 1x2 down here on the floor, under the seat, and then I want this here, but keep it strong. I want, I don't want to cheat it up, but lightweight tubing out the front, lightweight tubing out the back, and different things that I knew I wanted to do. And the battery I couldn't put on the left side of the car. That's just not going to happen. So, it needs to be right rear for me, put this stuff here, this stuff there. And that was the only car I probably ever raced that was perfect right rate,
It really was. I mean, that thing, you want a pile of races with that thing. Pile of races.
It was a joy to drive. It's probably the funnest car I've ever raced was that modified.
Really?
You had just enough horsepower to get yourself in trouble. But you had enough speed that it scared you, at the same time.
Right.
I think we set a track record when we got it. And back then it was like 1776, which was hauling butt to me. I got out just shaking, It was just, and we were on a 6-inch airplane tire, or 8-inch airplane tire. So really had 7 inches of ground, tread. But
that was them old Comanche tires or something like that back in the day, I think.
Yeah, there was some. But then you was doing tire soaking and everything else back then too. So we had, we worked every night just to be ready to go Friday night.
So all right. So you just hit on something that I was gonna ask you. So you come up through the era of the soaking and this and that. All right. So everybody has their own recipe. All right. Is that something you're gonna take to your grave, or would you share the recipe?
No, I didn't have a recipe, and it was truly it was Jamie Prell's recipe.
Was it?
And he'd sell his stuff out, and he'd ask how it worked out, and we had a couple deals worked out in a way that if it's too hot, tires went away, he'd back off something. I guess he's a chemist of some sort. Yeah. So he was making the stuff and selling it to select few people, and he kind of just doctor it from
just
tire to tire to fine tune what it needed to do. And, we experimented with inside tire, outside tire, how long. I mean, right. It was a process. And if you didn't start it like Wednesday night, you weren't ready to go Friday night.
I'll be damned.
And I think one of the derbies, I crashed in practice or something. And before my car got back to the track, Earl done sold the tires off the car.
Oh,
I mean, we were on practice tires, so the race tires were still sitting over there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry about me. But there's people in line to get the tires.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, he said, well, the car's dead. We ain't making it or whatever. And he said, that's how I got tires sold.
That's too
You're supposed to bring us the wheels back in a minute.
That's too funny.
But the tires were so critical to that deal back then too. So, you had to work on a lot of aspects of. So it made for a lot of nights racing.
Oh yeah,
especially if you're racing every week back then.
So with the soak rule and everything, y'all, how were y'all able to manage those tires? I mean, obviously you couldn't have gumballs that stick on the wall, but I mean, you had to be fast enough to qualify it, and then you still had to race on the tires that you qualified on, right?
Yes, yeah.
So were they like 20 lap features back then, or 30?
20 laps, I believe, most of the time. Well, you had a durometer number that we couldn't get below, so they monitored. After the race, they checked them. I don't think they really cared what they were before the race, but at the end of the race, they had to be X number.
Okay. All right.
So whether we were 72 or 77 or whatever the number ended up being. So you just had to meet that. If too soft, you were out.
Yeah.
So, but that was how long you did them, how hot your mix was, how deep it penetrated.
Right.
All that was in the mix. So it got to be a science. It really did with the tires. So we had a number we'd pull them off at and wrap them and stick them in the trailer, and then they were good to go. And then we were a little soft here and there. I don't think we ever got bumped for it, but it was, like one number or something. They say you're pretty damn close here. You better.
Yeah. Back off.
But it wasn't the tires we run the race for. It was, we were that good. So they knew the tires were going to piss more people off than, know, so they were pretty understanding on some of the stuff, I guess, but.
Part of being a hometown hero is looking good at the racetrack. Whether it be a wrap, T-shirts, hats, a fire suit, or trailer curtains, HP Graphics can get the job done for you. They have been on my race car for many years and have done an incredible job. TJ Paul is great to work with. Give him a call today at 601-946-3645. It's funny, because back then the technology as far as the shocks and stuff like that goes wasn't what we have today. So, I mean, the tire game was huge, but I bet if you could do the same tire game today with the shock technology, I mean, we'd probably see late models in the 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. It would be no question. The way they got the corner speeds that they can run at now, I run the late model cars and we run them hard, compared to like a modified, because you didn't have enough tire to run the car hard every lap. You just burn them off. So, now the tire technology and the car technology and stuff like that, these kids drive these cars like qualifying laps every single lap. Wow. There's no rest. There's no, just because we used to ride. We used to ride like first 15, 20 or 15 laps and race the last 5 or 10. And then hopefully you manage to just ride and you run out of tire last lap. Right. And that's kind of. But the track was so abrasive and it just destroyed tire. Yeah. So, but you didn't. And that was what made Five Flags such a equalizer to out of town people that come in with big money stuff or real nice stuff that could really run good. The track took care of all that, and it leveled it out pretty easy. So So we kind of like the old racetrack.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, there's a huge split. You know, a lot of people want it paved, and a lot of people don't. You know, what I mean, a lot of racers are, and especially the super racers, they'll tell you, man, don't pave this racetrack. We like it just like it is.
It's got so much character. You know, I know he's going to be up against a wall here for too much longer. He's going to have to do something. But you know, as long as he can keep patching it together, if I was him, I'd run as long as he could do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, because that's the mystique of Five Flags is, you know,
Right.
Tire wear game.
Yeah.
Managing tires. And really and truly, I think that's what makes the Derby so prestigious, is because if you can manage your tires and run 300 laps there and win the race, I mean, you're ready for the next level.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's something in the driver's control.
Yeah.
Tire
Yeah,
management,
and that's
right.
all.
Specifically in the driver's
Yeah,
control.
the driver has to understand what he's doing to his car and his tires and stuff like that, and the feel you get from your car.
Right.
You know, if you start leaning on the right front, well, you know you're leaning on it as a driver.
Right.
And at some point,
You
it's
can feel it in
It's
your
going to
hands.
give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just got to slow down, and then everybody that's not had that problem is going to drive by you. So,
Well, so with you stayed in the modified for what, 5 or 6 years there?
it was a pretty good bit of time. I'm trying to think when we did go to the road cars.
That's what I was just about to ask you, is when y'all made that transition.
I want to say it was 05, 06 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how we ended up getting pro cars. I think we had just been there and done it with the modified, and Earl was like, we need to do something else.
Did y'all sell the modified to get the pro car, or did y'all keep both and run both for a while?
No, we actually got the pro car and then ended up just selling the modified.
Did you?
Yeah. But it did help pay for and we bought one of Scott Carlson's old cars. It was the old Sprint 38 car. I don't know if anybody
I remember that.
That was a car I bought from him. And then we changed it up, did our thing to it, and go out there, and you know, we had moderate success with it. It wasn't like
That was a Port City, wasn't it?
yeah. It was an early Port City car, and but it had so much personality. Nobody could drive it but me. You know, we had Eddie Mercer tried to set it up. We go out, he put it on his deal, and that thing wouldn't turn a corner. Donald's out there telling me what I got to do. It wouldn't turn a corner. I mean, I had to have it hillbillied so hard to make it turn left, and I think I had like a 325 left front spring and like a 175 right front. And that's the only way the thing would turn the corner, you know, no matter what we did to it. You know, we just got into these bump stop deals, and I basically wasn't hardly using any of them.
Holy shit.
But everybody go to their, you know, they're running 150-pound front springs and on these bump stops. And, I mean, I get off in the corner and I just turn the wheel like they weren't even on the car. And they just plow all the way through. And eventually I end up right back where I'd started.
So what was causing that? Was the clip bent on it, or?
No, it had been clipped 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And just different things, updates. When we first got it, we got an update for it because it was an older car. So,
was that a Port City 4 car?
I think it was a Port City 3rd gen.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it was an early car.
Yeah, that's
it was
an old
heavy.
car.
Because I want to say Scott had it for 4 or 5 years even.
Yeah. So it was probably a 2000 or 99, 2000 by that time frame.
Actually, it was 10 years old when I got it from him, you know.
Oh, wow.
So that's how old it was.
Yeah.
But like I say, I don't know. I just think it was between the suspension geometry that we had at that time. It would just, it just did not like a soft left front, and it just didn't load the left front at all without putting a lot of spring to it. So
damn.
Yeah.
Well, you were one of the pioneers around here of running the bump stops and stuff. Wasn't you one of the first ones to kind of really figure that out? And
no.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean it was a guessing game, because when we started with Johanna and all that, I mean that was pretty much, I think 07 I started for Donald, and we were experimenting heavily with different bump stops on her car and stuff. My car was, you know, I mean, it's important, and we were doing our weekly thing, and then she'd show up and we'd do things with her car and try different things, and she did all right, but it was still just a whole big guessing game about that time with Wyndham coming out. I'd say I didn't have I just stuck whatever old foam was on there, and off we went.
I'll be damned. Shit. Well, you had everybody fooled, because I mean, I thought y'all were testing like crazy. And
now with Johanna's car, we were.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we when I finally give up my car and we just strictly focused on her all the time. But it was hard to do when we went into, you know, I got my car sitting up at shop. We got her car. It's an 07. So, you know, we're going to run her everywhere every weekend.
Right.
You know, that was the whole why he got some people together to just race car. That was all he's going to do, you
Right.
know. And you think it's a good glory job, well, it's the hardest I've ever worked in my life,
Right.
I can see that.
the hours that we put into them cars, and she bounced it off a lot of stuff, and we'd fix it and be ready to go the next weekend, and then the testing that we did, and just it wasn't nothing to have 95 hours a week, and
Damn.
and go home long enough sleep, get back up there, and then we go out of town, and then you work Saturday, Sunday, or get back Sunday for Saturday race. And if we wrinkled anything real bad, because back when we first started, we had to take the cars back to North Carolina for clip. So if we crashed it Saturday somewhere, okay, we're heading home, we call on the way, call Hampke and tell them, hey, we'll be there Monday morning to clip this car, so somebody had to be there Monday morning. So we're
Right.
Sunday taking the car down, getting a trailer to get to North Carolina. So they clip it Monday, leave Monday evening, get back home. Whoever drove it up there ended up sleeping that night, and somebody went to start putting shit back on it.
No
Because we were
shit.
leaving again Thursday night or Friday to go somewhere again.
Man, that's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. And we didn't miss a show. And then we finally got a couple cars, and then it wasn't quite as bad. But it with Mike Williamson and, me and another guy, probably three of us, was pretty much the mainstay of keeping them cars going for her at that time. And
Y'all were somewhere every week. Racing.
every week, we didn't go to IRP. We went Nashville. We went, was it Winchester? We go to North Carolinas. We go, just whoever had a good race going, we were going.
Yeah.
Seemed like the only time y'all had to rest was on the drive.
Yeah. So, and, but we had a good group of people with us, and when we got a lot of stuff done. We learned a lot. We figured out how to, we ended up getting a jig. So we started clipping our own cars.
Yeah.
That took 18 hours drive time right out of it. So
Right.
at least we could.
Hell,
get
you
home.
could have it clipped by the time you could have got there. Right.
Exactly. And so, we started. We didn't tear up no cars. We were building clips to have on the wall.
Yeah.
Just whether it be front, rear. We made jigs for everything. Door bars. We'd make 8 of them, not 2.
Yeah.
Front bumpers, we'd make 5, 6 of them. So we could kind of get in the process of getting the cars in and out a little quicker.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize how much is into hanging the body on these cars.
Oh
the
yeah,
amount of time.
that's a lot.
Aero's super important.
Oh, and
stuff.
it's free too on that. So you use every aspect you could get out of it. But the amount of time that we spent with those bodies in the late models was we had to get them done quick so we could try to massage them and make them look right. But
Right.
between the brake duct working and the air boxes and all the stuff that goes with them is real critical to how them cars work.
Is that why you ended up retiring?
Yeah, I just got too old, but not all of it. Johanna went big time, so they got a truck team, and then so me and Mike kind of stayed there and kind of justified our own work with fixing other people's cars and kind of just we had a couple cars that we put in house. Eddie Craig had one.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Rollins got up, and he being my biggest nemesis. That's kind of
That
odd
kind
to
of come
start
full
with.
circle there, didn't it?
Yeah, and then we come be best of friends. He's a great guy. Can't
Yeah.
say a bad word about him. But having the rivalries we had before to end up being his crew chief, for I think we did it for 2 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a heck of a story there.
And he didn't argue with me. I didn't argue with him. It was just a common goal: have a good car, and go out and have a good time. And and he had the best stuff he could get, and he really had nice cars. He really did. But he paid a lot for it too. So and then Eddie Craig having his cars up there, and DJ was driving. I think at the time, we had a good run at the Derby.
Yep.
One time with DJ. So we had pretty good success, but everything has to get to a point,
Right.
So then it kind of. I think she went on to do the nationwide deal in the 71 car, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of weren't paying our way no more. So Donald put us to work at the company, and kind of been history since then.
I got you. Are you working on anything right now?
No.
No racing stuff?
No. I kind of retired. I go help them if they need help, and I'm emergency standby if they need something. But Hunter's pretty much taking care of Johanna's stuff. And there is a car sitting there, and then Hunter pretty much took over racing with Ronnie Sanders for a while, so we'd helped him for a few, probably a year and a half he was doing it. But I just got pointed. It's just hard to get up, get down, get up, get down. I was just so beat up time to get done. It's like, man, I'm done with the racetracks. And it just wasn't fun for me no more.
Oh, I got you.
So,
well, kind of back up just a minute. You had a fierce points battle in the pro car right there before you retired with Brandon Carlson, and that was a really good season for y'all.
Well, I think that was early in the first couple of years of
was
the pro
it?
car,
Okay.
yeah. Because we were actually fighting over the number, because it was right before they went to the electronic scoring, so it was too hard for the tower to keep up with which 51 was. So one of us gonna have to change our number,
right?
And I fortunately won the championship, got to keep my number, and then he had to change up a little bit, but I think he went to a 151.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then so we got through all that, and then 07, I think I won the championship. And then 08, I started with Donald in 07. So in 08, I was running with Johanna. Johanna was like 3 points behind me in points.
Oh, wow.
Going into the championship race. And then I'm working on her car, plus my car, so it's getting kind of, and ended up, I got into a wreck championship race, and I think I ended up third in points. She won the championship, which is the greatest thing that ever happened to her.
Right.
Just in how things work out in life,
Right.
And she won the championship. Then we moved her on up to the late models and the supercars and all that kind of stuff. And so everything worked out really good. I mean, I got, no irritations about how my whole racing career has ever been from start to finish. It's been just a blast, I guess, with the people involved, the sponsor people we had involved. They committed and they stayed committed, and that's what was fortunate for me to be able to do what we did.
Yeah. Well, once you did retire and y'all went full time with Joe, I mean, y'all won a pile of races, did a lot of good stuff, won the Snowball Derby again in 2010.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Well, we got some people involved too. We had like Freddie Query, and we had a lot of people that had been racing a long time just to help, because me and Mike don't know everything, So and I think the actual 2010 we had our truck crew chief with us, Cowboy.
Yeah,
can't remember his last name, but we had a lot of deal with Freddie. And Freddie,
he was kind of like the driving coach too, wasn't he?
Yes, and he had a ton of experience late models. So he raced the late models his whole life, and so we all learned a lot from each other. I think we experimented with the bump stop stuff, and I think it was mutually beneficial with Freddie and us for what everybody learned,
right?
Because we were trying stuff, crazy stuff. I mean. And Donald, he don't think inside the box at all. And it's amazing how the stuff he can come up with and try. And, we tried two-spring stuff. We tried, we were doing coil springs before people were doing coils. We were taking valve springs and trying to create stuff with them, just and had the little dynos and playing with stuff. Donald's spent hours and hours and hours up there on the dynos just trying different things and spring raiders. I know we wore one spring raider completely out.
Damn.
They had the electric one that they first come out with. I think it was
Intercom.
No, the fellas over at Mobile.
Gale. Gale Force
we
machine.
wore a Gale Force slap out. Donald wore the motor got tired just from working that thing to death. But we tried and we tried and we tried stuff and we tried stuff. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't work, and but that's how you get better. And but there was a lot of testing involved, a lot of testing involved.
Y'all burned a lot of tires up.
A lot of tires. And then it was all worth it. The goal was for Johanna to get seat time and get comfortable with her cars, and a lot of hurdles that we had to work with, being her a girl driver and stuff, was she didn't have that male drive in her, but she could drive a car. Now we struggled with her on if you spin it out, dump the clutch, spin it around. Most guys are out there doing donuts in parking lots, and we had to go out there and teach her how to do donuts in the parking lot.
Right.
So we got an old Hooters car or something was around the stop, so we got to just waste tires with her. That was the fun part of the job. Was like,
I bet
we got to get you
blast.
going the right direction. So dump the clutch, turn the steering wheel, just go instead of make a 3-point turn on the racetrack. So we go out there and teach her how to do donuts and stuff, and had a blast with her doing that stuff. And she was just a good, wholesome little girl that. We just want to go fast. And
we look forward to getting her on the show. And we look forward to it.
And then we won the Derby in 2010, which is kind of the pinnacle of everybody's seasons,
Yeah.
you know, as far as their goal. You know, then from here, what do? You go to the Cup Series or the Nationwide Series as another,
Right.
because you kind of hit the biggest race there is to win.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and that was a goal when Donald hired me. He says, you know, I got a few things I want to achieve. You know, we want to go to NASCAR, but I want to win this Derby. I want to, you know, win championships and such and so forth. So, you know, pretty much we achieved almost every goal that I know was set for us
that's
to
awesome.
go into that. But it takes dedication. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time.
And y'all had some good looking stuff. We were talking before the show or whatever. I mean, you were instrumental in hanging the bodies and doing all kinds of stuff on those cars.
Oh yeah, I mean it's artwork, and I enjoyed building the cars. Still to this day, you know, if I could just, I'd probably help Hunter if he just leave me on a creeper or down on the floor and throw me tools and stuff. You know, that way I didn't have to get up and get down and all the rest of the stuff.
Right.
You know, I tell him maybe he's got 5 get up and downs in me when I get there. So
Right.
okay, that's 1. That's 2.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, the bodies were, you know, it was an artwork to all of it, you know, and you could tell the people that put some time in their cars. You just walk by and look at them.
Oh yeah.
And
you
know,
can see the craftsmanship.
And we walk around and look at other people's stuff too, and you know, and you know, it's like it's artwork, you know, and right down to how you run the brake lines, and you know how stuff looks, how they're, you know, positioned, the interior sheet metal work, you know, the seams, you know, it's all, and that tells you how much pride they take in what they're doing. And you can just look at some of these cars back then, and it was, this is gonna be a good car. This guy's got a lot of time in it. He loves this car, you know. He's gonna be.
You can see how somebody massaged on it. Yeah.
And it was a labor of love with all them things, you know. And we'd stay up there extra time just to make it look right. If the door didn't look right on the car, you took it back off till it looked right, you know. And you massaged it around till it looked right, fit the templates like it's supposed to, and you just went on life.
Yeah.
You know, and made, you know, it was that way. And I think that's why I got hired from Donald, because I think Ricky Brooks worked for us at the time as a plant guy, and I was running the pro cars.
Mm-hmm.
But Donald was racing himself before all this, you know. And we never raced against Donald. Donald was all supercars, but you know, between the modifieds and supercars, and you know, my cars are always, I say pretty, you know, but I took the time. They had to look good, you know, and as well as perform good, but they had to look good, because we did car shows. We did, you know, I had a lot of support when I raced, because after my first year of racing, the wife says, you know, we can't afford this no more.
Right.
So I went and I hit every tree I could shake. I shook it, you know, right down Checkers. You know, we can't give you the money. We give you food. Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah.
What can you do? You know, put a sticker on the car. We'll give you 10 hamburgers a week. Okay, I'll be by Friday to get them.
Yeah.
And they give us 10 hamburgers. Take it to the guy, feed the guys before we went to work. And I went for, I think it was $100 a spot, and I think time was over. I had like 32 spots.
Damn.
And that was my racing budget, you know. So it's like, okay, well, now I can race, you know. And your money in the bank had a lot to dictate how you drove a lot of times. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But by the end of, I think, 95 season, I got to figure what to do with some of this money, you know, other than put it towards next year's car or next year. But I had spare motors, I had spare engines, I had spare cars, you know, I had spare of everything. So I was doing better than most people ever in super stock and making money. So, you know, I ended up behind the gas station we had was a Montana's barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
So went over and talked to him. I told him, I'll give you the hood. I want a banquet once a year. He said, so you got a logo made up for the hood. I says, I'll buy the beer, you buy the food, and give me a place to have this banquet once a year for all my people.
Oh man, that's awesome.
We have our own banquet every year for my car, and you know, you got 30-some people tied up. You know, it turned out being a pretty good deal. I mean, and we get all the trophies out, set them all up on tables, and had everybody plaques. And
are you looking to transform your property? Do you need a pool removed, land cleared, or expert grading for your next big project? Look no further than More Site Solutions. One thing that makes More Site Solutions different than other companies, when you call, you're not just getting a business, you're getting Jake. That's right, the owner. Jake personally answers your phone call, shows up for every estimate, and never leaves you hanging. No ghosting, no excuses, just honest, reliable service from start to finish. And if you're the DIY type, they have you covered too. More Site Solutions can supply the materials you need to get the job done right. So whether it's a big project or a small one, More Site Solutions is ready to make it happen. Give Jake a call today at 850-332-2827, and let's get to work. So it's funny you say that. So I've been to a lot. Joe Richburg's got one. I know Craig Powell had one. Like, man, and you'd go into these businesses and you'd see a Sammy McMullen 51 plaque up there. So that's I didn't realize that's what you were doing for. That's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, and you tried to make them feel a part of it. I call them weekly. You know,
showing appreciation.
Show appreciation. Keep them in the loop. You know, he was one of my guys that helped. You know, and he just come draggling in and. You know, love all these people to death. There's so many of them are characters. I mean, Joe is a mess by himself, you know, and he's over helping us. And, you know, we have a wreck or something. He get out of the car. How can you be smiling? I said, Joe, I'm out here racing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you're not mad about tearing it? No, we fixed the damn car.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people in the stands watching, dude.
Right,
I mean, we're down here doing it. You know, I mean, hell, I was racing. I got smashed going for the lead. What the hell? How can you be mad?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh man. And he just, you know, stuff like that. You know, he was a great person to have with you, and just and other things you do for the people that help. I mean, I actually rented the track one day and had a sponsor day out there.
No doubt.
Yeah, and this is back Super Stock days. So I take Super Stock out there, rented the track, and just put sponsors in it.
That's a good idea.
And just different things I could make, you know, to keep these people interested in. You know, Ed Ray was on Damco Transmissions at the time, and he gave me $100 a month. But he's an older gentleman, probably 70s. And I said, hey, come on out. I'm going to do this Saturday. You know, you want to come out and drive this race car around? Are you kidding me? No. You make as many laps you want. Well, I shouldn't have said as many.
Oh, shit.
He burned a half tank gas out there.
Oh, no.
and you know, I never got scared that he would wreck the car, but he just drove it. And then, if that man would have died right then and there, he'd have been the happiest man in the world. I mean, he got out smiling. He's calling me, hey, can I give you some money next week?
Right.
Yeah, I have to chase that money down ever again.
Right.
Because he knew just the experience he had, I was having, and he wanted to see it keep going. So, you know, and stuff of that nature was.
We need to get back to that.
Yeah,
we need to get back
taking
to
care of the people that were taking care of me, so I could do what I want to do. You know, but it wasn't just the problem that most people get is they just take their money,
right?
You know, and don't try to give them nothing back out of it. And
slap a sticker on the car, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, or go back and ask for more. You know, had a bad week. You know, I crashed it. Can you give me a couple hundred more? You know, well, then they get that stigma. Well, I never went back. You know, if we deal on $100, it's $100.
Right.
All I can ask you is make sure you have $100 for me every month.
Right.
And then let me worry about everything else in between, and never went back for more.
That's how you take care of one.
Mm-hmm. And you know, we had such a good following. I'm not going to name his name, but we had a sponsor that he was actually going through bankruptcy. He's losing his truck. I mean, it actually got repoed, and this thing comes over in his girlfriend's car and hands me my check. You know, so where's your truck? You know, well, I got repoed. What the hell are you doing? Well, I promised you I do. No, that changes.
Right.
You know,
right.
We're not taking your name off the car. You know, until the business is dissolved or whatever. No. Here's your damn money back.
Right,
you know?
right.
I mean, but that's the caliber of people we had and how much they want to see us succeed and do what we were doing. And they knew it took money to do it.
Right.
So,
that's pretty good.
But it is crazy. I mean, but, you know, you got to have these people to help you. You can't do it all yourself. The prices that, you know, this is $95, $6. You know, things are expensive no matter what you did.
Right.
So, so you got to have the helper to help you, but you got to take care of the people that help
Absolutely.
you.
Got to take care of the people that take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really cool. I've always wondered where all those plaques and what the story behind that was. So that's really cool.
And like I say, you got to, and I didn't want no just old picture. You know, everybody gets a picture. I ain't knocking your stuff over here on the wall, but you know, those plaques were cool as hell.
Oh yeah, hell yeah,
and that's the first time I'd ever seen them. And then I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. You know, it cost $40 a plaque, whatever it costs, but you know, I got to do this. You know?
It was worth it.
If I want to race next year, you know, they're proud to hang that on the wall, not just thinking no picture. And you go around, Joe's got his, you know. Most of the businesses have them somewhere on the wall. People can see them.
They're still hanging up. Matter of fact, I think there's still one hanging up in the Amico transmission.
I know Sam's has still got theirs up there, you know. And
Car City still got theirs hanging up. Car City Machine Shop.
Yep. Old David.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them everywhere. You're one of them places.
But we had that many people involved, too. I mean, if y'all been to just those few places and see them, I mean, that's, you know, I wish I brought a picture of the car, but, you know, and then that started another problem. Gary Vanoy was the sponsor or the announcer at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what year, but he would only say 5 sponsors. Just made me mad as hell.
Oh, yeah.
So I take the remote or the microphone, you know, they put it in your face, I grab it. And I'd walk around the car just naming off names and
Yeah,
stuff,
heck
you know.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he'd go, you can't do that. You can't. Bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, these people all paid good money to be on my car. And if I'm going to win a race, they need to have their name said to all
Absolutely.
these people. You know, that's just rude if you don't do that,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just pick 5. We're going to say them all.
Right.
And
I
then
agree
so
with
the
that,
track
100%.
promoter got involved, and I don't remember if it was who it was, Terry Spears, which one it was, but kind of told him the same thing. You know, I said, you know, this is crap.
Right.
You know, you need people in the stands. These people are giving me money to be up here to put on a show for you, and then not to hear their name. You know,
Well,
if I
see,
win
and
the race.
I would always be worried that if that would be the one night that one of my sponsors is in the stands that didn't tell me they were coming, and if I didn't mention them, man, you piss somebody off. You lose a sponsor right there, you know?
You know,
Yeah.
and so we finally got all that squared away, and then, you know, after 3 or 4 times stealing the mic and walking around the car and chasing you, you know, they got the message. We're going to say them all.
Right.
And I mean every one of them.
Right, yeah.
So, and so we made sure that happened, and, you know, just different crazy little things. But, you know, you got to take care of people, like you say, that are involved with you. And even the crew guys, you know, you try to buy their way in. They spend a lot of time helping you. You know, you got 2 or 3 guys that are kind of dedicated to you and your car, and they're in there in and out every week. You know, if it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, Wednesday, Thursday, you're racing Friday, so, you know, you're up to 4 or 5 days a week with a race car. At least I was.
Mm-hmm.
And they stayed there the whole time.
Right.
So, you know, you got to take care of them people. You recognize them. You know, get them in the pictures with you. You know. Oh yeah. You know, that type of stuff. And so you got to take care of your people. That's the biggest thing I can tell people out there.
So just to kind of hit on one other thing and kind of go in a different direction, you raced a little dirt too while you were doing all this. Tell me about your dirt days.
Well, I won 1 race in 3 years, and then but Les Smith had come, and he had some show enough truck stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then David Shepard, we're good friends with him. Well, Les, I think, actually owned 4 trucks out there.
At one time he did, yeah.
So it had Danny Hamrick driving. I can't remember who the third one was. And then me. And David owned half the truck, and Les owned half the truck. So
Right.
David kept the truck up, that type of thing. But when they called me and said they want me to drive this truck, I thought they were just pulling my leg, you know. And no, we're going to have it ready here in a few weeks. I want you to come drive it. Sure, okay, whatever. So then David called, all right, truck's ready. We're going to racetrack this week. Be there. All right, so bring a helmet. I have no idea what to expect. You know, first corner, can't see nothing. You know, how do you work these tear-offs too, you know, and rip every one of them off, you know. So we get some stuff figured out. But my job with the truck was to get Waffle House money. That was all I was expected to do. And I think we had it figured out if I finished 6th, which most time it wasn't but like 8 trucks.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good chance of getting 6th place to get enough money by Waffle House money on the way home.
Well, I always loved that old 21 truck though, because it had the ace and the jack on it, and I mean that was a cool looking truck.
And that was all David's deal. The 21, he just picked it because that was my old number.
Yeah.
But the truck, you know, David took care of, and they run Car City Engine Machine.
So for the listener, we're talking about the old Thunder truck class that used to run at Milton. I think that class ended in 06 or 07 or something like that. But it was a cool class back then.
And like old S10s and stuff like that?
No, it was full body stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Full size C10 Chevrolet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Truck arm stuff. I mean, it was a truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just basically took the windows out, gutted it, throwed some big tires on it, whatever you do.
Had
for
the
a
old
motor,
McCreary
EC2s or 1.0s if you could get them through tech.
Driving tanks around there.
There's a story about that too, but that's funny as hell.
Oh, Right Stuff did good on that 0.
Yeah,
you could make it a 1 in a hurry.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
But I never got a new tire, so I don't know what a new tire ever felt like. I got all lefts as hand-me-downs, takeoffs, you know.
Yeah.
So the only thing I got was an extra 5-inch offset wheel and a 2-inch offset wheel.
Yeah.
And
them things had some good motors in it, though.
I did not.
Now hold on. There's a story there because the Purple People Eater motor was come out of your truck. I pulled it out. That thing was a hoss.
Well, it might have been. Did you ever look inside?
I didn't never tear it down, but
you didn't want to. Then.
Yeah.
Because there was a time I didn't have the same heads, and I knew I had 4 different pistons in it at one time. I mean, because we blowed one up, and then so we, David's over there pulling stuff out of the core bin, and the trash bin and measuring pistons. And I knew I had some 4 eyebrows in there, some 2 eyebrow pistons in there.
Frankenstein motor.
Oh, it was horrible, but it run. You know, they got me, and one of them run pretty good.
Yeah.
I cannot argue, but it had 2 different heads on it. But I mean, it was all about fun. There was no expectations out of me for that deal whatsoever, other than 6th place. But I tell you what, I do give the dirt guys the utmost respect, because it took me forever to feel comfortable driving that truck.
Yeah.
To make the same lap twice on dirt, I could not do it.
Mm-hmm.
From coming to what I'd come from, and you don't want to get anything crooked or sideways, because that just meant you were backing up to happening to go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And here I think I'm about to spin out, and they show me a picture of it, and, you know, Les is yawed out, let's just say 40 degrees, and I'm yawed out 5,
Right.
thinking I'm fixing to crash.
Right.
You know, and it took me the longest time to ever get comfortable with hanging one out like that, you know, to feel comfortable driving it that way.
Did it make you better on asphalt though?
I can't say it did or didn't. Because it was just different.
Yeah.
You know, we were so line specific at Five Flags, and the Five Flags was more about how far you get in, and how far you worry about your tire situation, and how hard you drive off, and, you know, stuff of that nature. But dirt was, you know, somebody drive through there, and, you know, if there was a puddle at the bottom, splash it up on the track, then, oh, hell, here you go.
Oh, yeah.
You know, no 2 laps you could make the same, because the track wasn't the same 2 laps in a row.
Right.
You know.
Y'all did put on some really good shows.
Oh, yeah, we had a blast, you know, and there was a lot of nights all forward. Les's truck be piled up in the bottom of a corner, and him in there hollering. And I don't know if you know Les, but he was very vocal.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was loud, and there's people standing there, what the hell is wrong with you 2 idiots? You know? And we're all door to door, all wired up in the same mud puddle.
Damn, that's funny as shit.
Are you stupid?
Yeah.
You know, there was always something coming out of him. So, but we had a blast. I mean, and it was all about fun, like I said. And
winter is over. Racing season is in full bloom, and hurricane season is only weeks away. Don't wait till Jim Cantori shows up on Pensacola Beach to make sure that your house is hurricane ready. You need to give Window World of Pensacola a call. We specialize in impact and non-impact rated windows, but our impact line is what you need for the upcoming hurricane season. Give us a call today at 850-484-9998, or come by the office at 10108 North Palafox Street.
I don't regret any of it. It did teach me to loosen up a little bit about how to drive it, you know, not be so focused, because you had to kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, I guess just more relaxed, driving it.
Yeah.
And just let it do what it's going to do, you know, and then you just worked on it to get it to do what it should do.
Right.
You know, and not force it to get that far out, or try not to, you know, make it do things it couldn't do, because it just mess you up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did win the bounty. I think it was, who was it? Bo had the 81 truck.
Oh, yeah. Bo Bailey.
Bo Bailey. They had a bounty on him, because he had won just like every race for.
No, that was Robbie Bailey.
No, it was Bo. It was his kid.
Okay. All right. Wasn't okay.
Because Robbie would pretty much had quit
by that point.
time, and Bo was taking over kind of all of that 81 truck stuff. But he had won 4 or 5 in a row, so had like $300 bounty on him. Mm-hmm. And but it started raining.
Okay.
And my truck drove so crappy that's the only time I drive right, when the track was so slimy. And that's when I realized why I couldn't drive it as good, as it was just so loose.
Right.
I was the only one that could ever go into the corner sideways with it raining on the racetrack. Everybody else just fly right off the other end. Going straight, you know. But they cut it to like 6 laps, and Bo was still running at the end, but everybody was so tight they couldn't drive through the corner, and I actually won the race, and I could actually drive through there like I knew what I was doing.
I'll be damned.
So that was the only race. Normally I finished, you know, 3rd to 6th, you know, but it was still a great time. It really was. And the people made it fun. You know, and Les was the type of person you could harass them just to no end. I mean, and you had to just to.
So, you know, Pop has told me a story several times. I've known Les a long time, and he's always been real good to me over the years. But he was up to win the championship one night, and you and somebody else was eating peanuts and throwing them in it. You probably tell the story better than I can, but tell me that.
Well, he's just so superstitious about everything, and we harassed each other so bad. It would, it's just how we were.
Yeah.
So we was over there sitting on the side of the trailer, and we were just eating shit, the peanuts and throwing them behind us. Well, his truck was on the trailer behind us, and they just kept going inside it.
Oh, shit.
And I'm not saying we did it on purpose, but it was, we weren't aiming for the window, but if it went through it, So he gets in his truck and all these peanuts are in this sector. He flips out,
Yeah.
And he gets so worried about such little things that, I don't. But we did stuff like that to him every chance we could get.
That's funny as shit.
He get, flustered. We go out there and put the jack under the rear end. He'd hop in it. Won't go nowhere. God.
All right.
Jump back out, try to find something wrong, transmission broke. We go over, let the jack down, just anything we can do to mess with the poor guy,
That's funny as hell.
But it is just, he actually tried super stock.
Yeah, I remember that. He had Kenny Williams' old car.
Yeah, and he was scared to death.
Yeah.
As crazy he was on dirt, he was masterful on dirt, and he did he wasn't scared on dirt,
right.
But you get him on asphalt and he come that corner at 80 and he didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
And he had a really good car. We kind of got him a pretty decent piece, and other people could drive it better than he could.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like me. He was very timid with it, but like I was on dirt going the other direction. So,
right.
I had to understand and stuff, but he tried it. I do give him that. But another good person that you dealt with through life.
100%.
We had a few of them. We did a lot of time with Ricky Brooks. And learned a lot with Ricky, really, believe it or not. And I say I learned a lot. We tried different things, but I guess part of my super stocks, things that really helped the car along was we were fortunate we owned a garage. So I had a pretty killer alignment machine.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh man, yeah, you had it made for that.
And they just come out with these 4-head Hunter laser aligners.
Yep.
So we actually bought one. So I started leaning towards, I could get live data, rear, front, toe, front setbacks, just information galore on tire angle, and everything was live. So I could go over there and actually just lean on a tire and watch the numbers change up there. So once I got figuring stuff out what I was doing, then I could go manipulate a lot of stuff.
Hell
so, my super stock, we get back to the rules. I run the rules just as straight up as I could in everything I race, but there was nothing ever stipulated about camber and rear ends.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you had a solid axle and it's really hard to camber one, but if you twist that pumpkin far enough, you can put half a degree in each side.
Right.
So my pumpkin's in there cockeyed, and then at the time, we were running, it's an old Buick rear end. So they actually had a roller ball bearing, axle bearing instead of a tapered roller bearing.
Right.
So you could do a little more things with it. It was almost similar to a 9-inch where it bolt in didn't have a C-clip. So you could do a little bit more different things to them that way. So that went into modified stuff, the modified, it's roll resistance and everything you can do to eliminate it. Well, I get it on there with this rear end's like towed out a 1/2 inch in that. And, you get everything bent around until it's towed out a 16th. You push the thing across the top with one finger. Yeah. Versus 4 people trying to push this thing.
Being like a lead sled.
Yeah. And it was just all with the alignment of the tires and stuff like that. And, got real heavy on that stuff. And, me and Ricky had actually come up with the 16th toe out because, he's running Mobile real hard. And he got in a wreck and it just bent the hell out of his rear end. So we're over there at the racetrack with a bottle jack and the torch and physically pulling the rear end around it because it took the tube and it bent it. It was an inch towed in.
Oh, shit.
And so we're with a bottle jack, just torch and just making shit happen. So we get done that night. We can't run the top groove anymore. And over there, he was noted for being the outside. Just jump up there and pass everybody all the time. So we started messing with his car. So we get it total dead nut 0, perfectly straight. He gets out, car hauls ass, track records. He goes to jump top. He can't make the top no more. It spins out, flies off the racetrack.
Oh, shit.
Like, well, Ricky, the only thing we did was move this rear end that less than 1/8 inch, I said, well, let's put it back and see what happens. So we towed it back out to the 16th of an inch tow out we had on the right rear. Damn if it didn't drive the name. He'd go back up top and run the hell out of it again. So that's when I started teaching those things about, rear steer and how important these things was, and, how different things that you did affected the car, where it affected the car.
Yeah.
In alignment wise, it was, we'd roll the rear and back, roll it forward, left or right, different things and how it affected the car. And then once they had a set of numbers we could work with, we could put it back there every race.
I'll be damned.
He could knock the whole rear end out one of the car, and then we go back with a 1/2 inch outside right rear, 16th toe on the right rear, 0 on the left, and same race car. Put it on scale as long as the numbers was right, toes, tires pointed the right direction. He'd go to the top. Ricky was the type of person, he didn't test anything as far as, I said, well, work up to it, see if it'll get up,
Nah, we're going full
He'd be a frisbee flying off the back straightaway. That didn't work. Just he's flying through there. It's like, damn, you didn't give it a chance, dude.
Right.
Because he was just hard nosed.
Right.
Everything he had all the time.
Right.
Know? So, but we dealt with a lot of good people through racing. And then we didn't know why all this stuff works out till we get later on. We do some of this late model stuff, and super stock. We did a lot of modifications, but it wasn't. It was gray area stuff,
right?
If the rule stated must use stock suspension component and mounted in stock, or mounting must be stock, okay? And I think that was how the rule was worded. Well, it didn't say nothing about moving the whole mount.
Oh, shit.
Because I was still in the stock mount. It
Right.
just didn't say I couldn't relocate the mount. So, even super stock, you can't get good camber and caster with the upper A-frame perch where it is.
Right.
And
so
then
you cut it and you move it. And
so I just cut the whole perch off and get my caster camber where I want it, and get, you got the jack bolt coming through and everything else. So clear my A-frames and weld the whole perch back down. Kind of made it look like it was a factory deal.
Right.
Well, unless you're really, really looking for it, you're not going to see it.
throw a little dirt, put some paint over it, and
Exactly.
you're good.
So then, I'm out there and getting my ass kicked with Tommy in super stock, and I'm mad as hell. I finished second again, burnt the right rear off the car. Don't know why. Playing with a coat hanger.
Mm-hmm.
And then light bulb goes off. Well, if these are the upper control arms, and so we got the car down to 5 inches. Well, it can't pivot no more.
Right. Yeah. So it's out of pivot.
So you're binding up on the upper control arms, and everything's transferring to the right rear. I'm down to 120-pound right rear spring and still just tearing the right rear tire off the car. It shouldn't do this,
Right.
So that playing with the coat hanger kind of pink. So start reading the rule book. What can and can't do? Well, we're back to that rule. All right. Well, I got stuck uppers, and I got the package tray is still in there. So I just moved the whole package tray up
On the rear end?
on the frame.
Oh, no shit.
The whole back plate that goes across
Yeah.
there, you just trim that thing off, slide that whole thing up, because, we're at 5 inches. Well, everything at 5 inches, everything is so pinned down
Yeah.
that you change your upper trailing arm angle so hard that it can't roll over itself or give you a center pivot point.
Right.
So I just moved the whole package tray up with the car at 5 inches and then put it all back level on the rear end. That fixed that car, and off she went. And then never tore right rear off it again. I could run 20 laps as hard as I want to. And then that's when we started doing really good with that car.
I'll be damned.
Okay.
But it is all a play on the rules.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and if he ever got caught, he should, I didn't change the mount.
Right.
I
I moved it, but I didn't change
yeah,
it.
it didn't
It's
say
still
you
stock
couldn't.
mount.
It's
Right.
still a stock mount. And I didn't alter how it mounts to the car,
Right.
other than I moved the whole mounting position. So, they may have still worded it or interpreted it different than I did, but that was the play I had. So,
With the economy back on the rise and interest rates coming down, if you're looking for a new home in the Panhandle area, give Levada Burrows McIntyre a call with Century 21 BE3. She's been serving the Panhandle, helping buyers and sellers achieve all of their real estate needs. Give her a call at 850-554-2180 or find her on her website at levadasales.com. But see, that's part of and I think that's part of your persona in the racing community, is being able to read a rule book like that and be smart enough, first of all, to think about stuff like that, because there's a lot of people who read the rule book, not be smart enough. Well, I can move the mount. It's still stock, you know what I mean? And I can move it. So I commend you for that. But I mean, you're everybody kind of knows that you're that way. You know what I mean?
Well, you got to be, I don't know, it's smarter than the average bear, but you got to utilize every, and that's what made racing so fun, was being able, with that class, is there was enough open ends to use your brain, and kind of figure different things. And if, how do I make this car better and still stay within that rule book? Because I could not get thrown out for being a cheater. I mean,
right.
I just was never going to get labeled cheater. I was never going to do anything illegal, so everything was in that rule book, black and white, and that's what they had to swear to it, and that's what I had to uphold to.
Right.
It was nothing that we ever did that wasn't black and white, just flat out wrong.
Right.
And the motors were just exactly what they're supposed to be. They're maxed out, but they're exactly what it is, and
Did you ever get questioned? Or did you ever had to defend it?
Yeah. Bobby Parker, it was, I don't know if y'all remember him.
I know Mr. Bobby.
Bobby was a real dry person, very hard person to get to know. But once you knew him, then he was one of the best people in the world. So he run Fade Machine Shop for a lot of years. We dealt with him through the garage a lot, but I never had a lot of personal interaction with him. So we started racing, and we went through a couple of people helping us build engines, blow them up, So go to Bobby. Hey, I'm going to build these motors, super stock. He said, well, if I help you, you're going to do it this way. And he said, there's not going to be any other way we're going to do it. And I said, okay, fine. He said, all right, get your gas crank, get your steel crank, your pick, I don't care. He said, get your block, and you're going to polish this stuff. You're going to do this. So you're going to get a grind, a flapper wheel, and you're going to grind on it till you're tired of grinding on it. And then you're going to bring it to me and tell you what you missed. You're going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through, get the block done, get the crank done, go through the rods, stock rod motors, stock crankshafts, all the rules. Got to leave casting numbers on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we beam the rods, polish the crank. I mean, we're polishing intake valleys.
Damn.
I mean, this thing is just a work of art time to get done with it. We put it together in best motor you ever have in your world. I mean, I run that thing. So we go build the second one just to have as a spare, because it may be so we get protested, and they want to see the crank. And I think it was Greg Young protested. Well, we got Mr. Bill in Mobile balances the crankshaft. Well, the rules was you couldn't light the crank. And how did they word it? Can be lightened for balancing purposes only, and no knife cutting.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Bill takes a pair of a big old grinder, and he just cuts like a piece of the counterweight off, like you took a pair of toenail clippers and cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we beamed the rod so much and cleaned, we lost a lot of weight off the rod side, so we had to lose some weight off the crank side. So, end result, he protested us, and I said, what are we doing? He's like, what do you mean? Mr. Bill did your crank. Yeah. So what are you going to my crank for? Well, I said, because, we're counter protesting the same thing on yours.
Yeah.
And the rule was you started top, went to the bottom. So if they found anything out in the middle of it, then you were out anyway. So He said, well, that's what I'm going. I'm hoping something wrong in there. He said, I doubt your crank's wrong, but here's where we go. So we pull the intake off, and there's a crowd of people, holy cow, wow, because it's like a mirror in there now. Yeah. And it's pretty. But they go top to bottom. They don't find a thing wrong. They pull the cranks out, and they're both sitting there. Greg's ain't polished like ours is, but he's got the same counterweights cut and stuff like that. So then they said, well, it's a lighting crankshaft. No, it's not. It's your rule book.
Right.
I said, the only thing y'all hadn't done is come up with a weight rule.
Right.
I said, there's casting numbers. Yeah, the thing's missing, but it's been lightened to match the balance work. And then Bobby gets up there, and so he kind of gets in the middle of it and says, this is y'all's rule book. Mm-hmm. He said, you tell me a weight right now. And they ain't weighed nothing. So they had to all get together, come up with this number as what they're going to consider a lightweight crank. And I think it's 53.5 pounds.
Damn.
From a stock crank, I think it's supposed to be 55. Mm-hmm. So set them on scales, we were 53.5 pounds, both cranks. Damn. I mean, they were almost like identical, So everybody's deemed legal, sent everybody home. We got bounty or the tear down money. I think it's $300-400. Put it all back together with, but
I'll be damned.
But it's people like Parker. I mean, he was
a good old man.
He was. I mean, and we tried some stuff, and he was old school as he could be. He had to have 50 weight racing oil, and then two things that has to be oil treatment. Well, I was. Well, we got to do something different.
Right.
What do you mean? Well, we got involved being in the garage of this neo synthetic oil stuff. So it was the guy tell me that everybody's doing this 0.5 weight stuff. Mm-hmm. He said, so I'm gonna give you enough motor oil to do your car twice. He said, pour it in there and go see what happens. Well, we put it in there. Man, it's so much dry. It's loose now.
Mm-hmm.
It picked up, I'd say 5-8 horsepower.
Oh, wow.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, enough to where the car drives different. So I got to adjust the car, get it going. So we get in a race. 8 laps in, the oil light comes on. Oh, shit. Well, we ain't got no oil pressure. We ain't had no problems before, you know.
Right.
So I go in. I'm leading. I ain't parking it. It's just going to have to scatter. It's
Right.
just racing mentality of us drivers. So, well, it survives. Get back shop, tear it down, pull the bearings, and they look good. I was like, holy cow. So, done me do it again. Second race, same exact thing. Like, well, the only way we can do this is if we tighten up the bottom end on this car. So, we sent Craig Cover, had it put stock tolerances, put the 5-weight oil back in it. And then we raced that thing for like a year and a half before it disintegrated.
Damn.
But when it disintegrated, they took, I think it was 100 bags of oil dry to get that crap off the racetrack because it was just so slimy.
Yeah.
I mean, just being as synthetic and slick. And I mean, it was horrible. Dang. I mean, you got to wash the car twice to get stuff off the bottom of it. It just don't come off. It was that. But the film strength on it at the time was just incredibly insane. So it was like way better than any 50-weight oil as far as crush strength, film strength, all that being a 5-weight oil.
Wow.
For the time. And I stayed with that stuff for a long, long time. But that was the stuff we were trying at the time to make stuff faster, better.
Yeah.
But for a year and a half, and then I don't know, people didn't really, we were on a 538 gear, so the least amount of RPM my motor was always 5,000 RPM. And we did 75, 7,600 at the end of straightaway. So it was 5 to 7,600 for 20 laps at a time, and just
beating on it.
Twisting the guts out of it all the time.
Yeah, beating on it.
And, but it was a good time.
Heck yeah.
So
well, what is the future? I mean, have we seen the last of your driving, or?
Oh yeah, I'm done. I've been there and done that. Got T-shirt. Met a lot of people. Trophies. Enjoyed every minute of it. So on to working and taking care of house, family. So got me a little play toy to play with at the house, and got some motorcycles we ride every now and then, and kind of enjoy life a little bit. And because you spend as much time we did racing, you lose out on a lot of.
Oh yeah, there ain't no doubt. There's no doubt.
Granted, the racing's fun, but the wife lost interest in racing, so it wasn't as much fun for her. So
right.
Well, that's the racing's fun. Everything in between racing is not.
Yeah,
right.
Like I say, we did it hard for like 15 years. And when you spend 3, 4, 5 nights a week racing, because you can't just, and I can't personally, I just can't race weekly. It's 4 nights to get the car ready, to have everything ready, to show up track, to be ready to go. And
then even when it's ready, you really could find other things to do.
We're going to find stuff to work on, check and recheck and recheck. But that's why our cars didn't tear up, didn't fall apart, is because we're constantly,
that's half the battle, though. You got to finish first. You must first finish.
Right. And that was with Johanna's cars, and we were so anal. We had checklists and, stuff like that. And because the level that we were at that point, you couldn't miss something.
Yeah, you couldn't have a DNF.
Actually, had a friend of mine I was talking to on the phone on the way here, and I was working on my car before this. And he asked if what I was doing. I was going to work on the car, and he said, "Man, you ain't done that thing yet?" I said, "Man, it's never done.
No, it's never done.
If it's sitting there race ready, there's something to do to it."
Yeah, there's always, it's a never ending, check, recheck, and, have stuff ready. You want to try different, so that you're not 3 days out there swapping stuff around, You've
Absolutely.
got a shock spring you want to change, have it ready to go. So you just put it on, take it off. If it didn't work, you can go right back. I mean, it's just
experimenting something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were saying with the maintenance on her cars, just, we didn't want to drive to Winchester and then have something fall off the car.
Yeah, something stupid happen, yeah.
You done got, 70 hours to get the car ready to drive, 20 hours to spend there too.
Right.
I mean, that's just all about being mad. I don't be mad as hell,
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So there's just things that you didn't do, But
well, this has been a pleasure. We could probably keep going here. But I certainly appreciate you coming with us today and sharing your story. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this episode. Jake, what else you got, buddy?
I think we covered everything.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Sammy, is there anybody you want to thank or anything else you want to
say? No, I've talked a lot more than I normally do. Just, the people that were involved with my whole program, were great people, and even the crowds and the fans and the people that that are out there that we tried to put on the show for everybody and tried to do everything as good as we could, the right way.
Y'all definitely did a good job back then too.
And it was a blast. Enjoyed every minute of it. You can't thank your wives and kids enough for dealing with it too. I mean, they're great. My wife, we've been married 34 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and she dealt with 15 of that racing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still married. So, hell of a woman. I mean, she gave me a blessing, but here and there. But she stayed with me. We got through rough times, but she was my biggest fan. Always has been.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And different car owners we had with her on Clara, greatest people in the world too. Even Donald McDonald and different paths that I've been down. They're great people.
Yeah.
And I guess you surround yourself with great people, great things happen.
Absolutely.
Well, special thanks to 5-Star Medicare, Blackwater Bookkeeping, Mooreside Solutions, One to World, and Century 21, all our sponsors that make all this possible.
Absolutely. Support them.
And if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you might be surprised at how affordable it is, and get your name out there, and we sure appreciate the support.
Yeah, just give us a call or contact us.
Maybe you could give them rides in your late model or your car.
And we
Learn
talk
to
about
track.
Yeah.
If they can figure out how to drive a Bren, we may be able to talk about it.
We'll make sure we do that in Josh's car.
Yeah. No, Jake's car.
What's
Much better car to do it.
What's a sponsorship cost?
It just depends on how.
See how much is rent a ride might cost.
Yeah, no doubt.
You have to work on your door hole too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a little bit. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today, and that is the Sammy McMullen story on episode number 17 in the books.
This has been a production of the Short Track Media Group, LLC. Any unauthorized recording, reproduction, or distribution without express written consent from the Short Track Media Group, LLC is strictly prohibited and will result in legal action.